The myth of being rich and gay. Let's talk about it, but first hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you stay educated on how your money works. Who are America's gays? To hear it as Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia would have said it, gays are a privileged set, living it up in big cities across the country. As the justice wrote in his dissent in 1996, those who engage in homosexual conduct tend to reside in disproportionate number in certain communities. Scalia added that they have high disposable income, which gives them disproportionate political power to achieve not merely a grudging social tolerance, but full social acceptance of homosexuality. There's a myth that gays and lesbians are one of the wealthiest demographics in the country. Some of the most ingrained public image of LGBTQ people are their cosmopolitan, high flamboyant lifestyle. Gays, as the story goes, live in gentrified urban neighborhoods like the Castro in San Francisco or Chelsea in New York. They eat artisanal cheese and drink $12 cocktails. But like most stereotypes, the myth of gay affluence is greatly exaggerated. In reality, gay Americans face disproportionately greater economic challenges than their straight counterparts. The UCLA's William Institute found that 29% of LGBTQ adults, about 2.4 million people, experience food insecurity at a time when they did not have enough money to feed themselves or their families in the past year. In contrast, around that time, 16% of Americans nationwide reported being food insecure. 1 in 5 gays and lesbians aged 18 to 44 received food stamps, compared with just over 1 in 4 same-sex couples raising children. The LGBTQ community has made huge political strides over the past decade, but in economic matters they still lag far behind the rest of the country. For instance, things in rural Alabama look very different from Seattle, and as more LGBTQ people come out, they are disproportionately more likely to come out in Alabama than Seattle. And Alabama, like many other places where gays of another generation might have stayed in the closet or left town altogether, but today are coming out, are poorer than those in Seattle. As a result, the numbers of self-reported gays and lesbians living in poverty is rising. Ironically, at first glance, this makes it appear that an increase in political and social acceptance of LGBTQ Americans is accompanied by a fall in economic standings. Progress isn't making gays and lesbians poor though, but it is allowing more poor people to acknowledge their sexuality. As these numbers become more readily available, it reminds us of why the myth of gay affluence ever existed in the first place. Up through the 1970s and 1980s, gays and lesbians played a seedier role in the public consciousness. The gay lifestyle was the bastion of society's most depraved individuals, sleazy bathhouses, leather bars, and so on. The image of gays and lesbians began to change, however, once Wall Street and Madison Avenue realized that there was a vast, untapped market of potential customers. Corporate America was one of the first targets in terms of trying to improve policies around LGBTQ issues. And part of it was this idea that they needed to focus on the LGBTQ community as a consumer market that mattered. Marketing firms conducted surveys to try to show not just affluence, but disproportionate levels of brand loyalty were a hallmark of gays and lesbians. In the media, gay men became well-to-do, cosmopolitan, and voraciously consumeristic. In 2012, Experian, a national marketing firm, released a business report claiming that the average household income of a married or partnered gay man is nearly 20% more than a straight married or partnered man, $116,000 compared to $94,500. The downside is that those marketing studies looked at the LGBTQ community as a consumer market, which is a very different perspective compared with how a social science researcher who does poverty research would look at those questions. They believe the public perception of their economic standing comes from these kinds of marketing studies and campaigns. Finding less biased research is more difficult. Economic breakdowns by racial and ethnic demographics are widely documented through census data, but for sexual minorities, this kind of information is almost non-existent. Also, not all partnered gay people feel comfortable declaring their sexuality in surveys, and a high-earning gay couple is more likely to report their sexual orientation than a low-earning couple, making wealthier gay people overrepresented in national surveys. Only when asked anonymously are more gays and lesbians more likely to disclose their sexuality. In such surveys, the poverty and food insecurity rates for LGBTQ people rise. Added to that, gay men were found to have a poverty rate of 20.5%. The rate for straight men was 15.3%. For lesbians, it was 22.7% compared to 21% for heterosexual women. The similar rates for lesbian and straight women is attributed to the fact that women overall tend to earn less than men. Additionally, same-sex couples are 1.7 times more likely than different-sex couples to receive food stamps. It's been well established that gay men are more likely to work as teachers, nurses, secretaries, and other jobs that are traditionally female-dominated and which don't pay very well. Additionally, nearly 40% of all homeless youth are LGBTQ. often having been kicked out of their homes by homophobic parents, putting them at a great economic disadvantage as they grow older. But there are more factors to consider. Some of the issues are likely to be employment discrimination against LGBTQ people, which would tend to reduce their earnings and might push them to take a low-wage job. Popular culture has launched gay people into the mainstream, but for all the benefits that shows such as Will and Grace, Modern Family, and Glee have had for the LGBTQ community on the public's conscience, few cultural outlets accurately represent the realities gays and lesbians face in America today. Realities like poverty, discrimination, homelessness, and food insecurity. And as the late Justice Scalia has shown, this disinformation is more damaging than simple ignorance. It holds back the entire gay equal rights movement. So what are your thoughts? Why are our gay and lesbian friends perceived as being rich? Leave a comment down below and let's get a discussion started. And as always, take care of your money.